Okay, so we have okay, we're right on time. It's 7:05. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for showing up this evening. My name is Princess and I'm a product manager at Brass. And we have with us here today the CEO of Eden Live, Nadayar Enegesi, and he'll be answering some questions around his products. So we're doing CEO month this month, and every week we'll be speaking with some Nigerian startup CEOs. So this week we have Eden Live CEO with us today, and we already sent out a link earlier this week for people to send in their questions. But after going through all the questions, if we still have time, we can take questions from the audience. Thank you so much. Welcome again, Nadaya. Good evening. Thank you everyone else for coming. Good evening too. So the first question for today is from Farun Olufikayo. He's asking, how do you decide what to build at Eden Live? We can't hear you. Are you mute?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I was saying I love that we're just jumping right into it. We're not like dancing around any like fake introduction bullshit. Just like jump right into it. So I appreciate that. So for the question was, how do we decide what to build? Yeah.
Yeah, how do you decide what to build at Eden Live?
Really depends on the different layers to that question. The layer that jumped out to me immediately when I heard the question was what sort of
And the way we think about that is, at Eden, we look through three lenses. There's critical infrastructure that needs to be built, or rather, we have customers that need to be happy. We need to keep them happy. The business needs to grow, and then there's critical infrastructure that supports those two things at different points in time in the future. And so, at every point in time, we are prioritizing what we build with those three things in mind. We usually prioritize customer happiness first, and then we prioritize critical infrastructure over everything else whenever we know that we're not going to be able to clear the level we want to play at in, like, let's say the next 3 to 6 months without that particular piece of infrastructure. Then we prioritize it for now. And then growth usually comes after those two things.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Ahmad Tijani Bashirun. I hope I pronounced that right. And he said he's asking, how do you automate creating meal plans for people at Eden Live?
Huh. So we can talk about the ideal state and today's state, because like with building, we're always building with an ideal state in mind. The ideal state is a representation of our vision, where we want the world to move. And with Eden, our ideal state is that people can receive the domestic services that they want with a click of a button. And once they set it up, they can forget it, and it just runs forever. We're still ways to go to reaching that feature. So today, what we have is a menu that rotates every 2 weeks. The menu has a wide variety because people are going to depend on Eden to eat all of their meals in the month. And every week, customers get a notification to choose their meals for the next week, and then they choose all the meals ahead of time. And then the following week, all of the meals will get delivered according to schedule. So that is what we have today. As far as automation goes, we're starting to add the different layers on it. One layer is allergies. So if on sign up someone indicated some allergies, whenever they're looking at their menu, they will not see items that they're allergic. The next step that we want to get to is using all of the data that we have collected around user behavior to now make suggestions. So now on our app, the app can suggest selections for you, and over time, it's going to get better at suggesting according to your patterns and according to the things that you claim and you like, or according to your appetite for being adventurous or not. And that is just going to evolve until a point where a new customer signs up, they tell us about their preferences, and anything that we suggest are things that they like. So it's going to be an iterative process.
Okay, thank you very much for that. The next question is from Bridget Yere. She's a product manager at Vsauce Technology. I hope I pronounced that right. She's asking, what do you need to know when transitioning from a product manager role in a B2G sector to B2C? So B2G, business to government sector to B2C. What do you need to know when transitioning from B2G to B2C?
Wow. I would start answering that question by saying I do not know. Um, what I do know, so this is someone who's in B2G business to government and is transitioning into like B2C business. And are they still a product manager in that transition, or are they changing roles to something
Still,
else?
like a product manager transitioning from B2G to
Uh-huh.
B2C, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like first can't build a product without knowing who the customer is, right? And just as a general north star, I think as long as you build for your customer and you make them happy, you will succeed. And so for anyone who is in that situation, it just really goes back to first principles. It's thinking, what are the things that I'm going to be required to do? And it's not just about B2G to B2C, because not every B2C is the same. So that conversation has to be had from the perspective of who the customer is and what needs to be done for them to for the customer to be happy and for the customer to meet their goals. And like when you know that, then that person can figure out what skill sets they have that can lend them to being very successful at that, or which skill sets they need to start learning and practicing in order for them to be successful at that. So.
Oh, okay, thank you. The next one is from Ella Ladipo. She's a product manager at Lendec. Her question is, at the early stage of any startup, who are the must-have team members to avoid having too many employees? So she's, sorry, let me just go over that again. At the early stage of any startup, who are the must-have team members to avoid having too many employees for a new product?
Well, perhaps there are two ways I'll think about that. The first one is there are only two main functions in the early stages of a startup anyways. There's people who are making stuff, there's people who are selling stuff. And at the early stages, if the startup is still validating the idea, then you need people who can build the smallest form of the idea that you can validate, and people who can sell that. And so whatever hires that you need for every startup, it is different because different startups have different needs. Like if it is just a I don't know, it's just like a simple application that manages, let's just call it a news feed, and perhaps it's just like a front end and a back end engineer, and then a digital marketer who promotes it online or something. But if it's like a biotech solution, then you probably need a scientist who's going to be on the team, who's going to be doing all of the research. You probably need a product person who's going to guide how the science is going to translate into a tech product. And then you also need like salespeople who are going to go and like sell it. Usually in the early stages, stages the salesperson is one of the founders. So, and all of these people can be founders as well. Yeah, it's really make sell wherever you need to do it at that point in time. Yeah, I'd say anyone who thinks about it like that will be.
I don't know if it's just me, like if it's my network or everyone else experiencing that. I couldn't hear what you said like in the past 30 seconds. Is it just me? Guys, please.
No, it was broken.
Yeah, it wasn't very clear. Can you
Yeah,
say that again?
please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Um, Mic check, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Yeah, sorry, my network is pretty poor. What was the last thing you heard? Was I just about to answer the question?
The question was about the people that you need on your team. Like
Yeah.
when you're starting out, so you don't employ too many people at the early
Yeah,
stage.
yeah. Okay, yeah. So I was saying there is at the early stages of a startup, there's just two functions. There's building and selling. Like who's making the thing, who's selling the thing. And the team you absolutely need are the people who can build the version of what you need to be able to sell to prove the idea. So if what it takes is 2 engineers to do that, then that's the most essential thing that's needed. If what is needed is a scientist and a product person and an engineer and then a salesperson, that's what you need. So it's just if we're thinking about the what is the minimum capable team required to build a minimum viable product, that's the way I think about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me go to the next question. So the next question is from Samuel Toby. He's a product manager at Micro Solutions, and he's asking, how do you manage complex processes that come with a heavily operational and physical process like your products? Let me just go over that again. How do you manage the complex processes that come with a heavily operational and physical process like your products?
We just think of everything as a chain, and every day we ask, what can we change in this chain of processes to make success more repeatable? Because at the end of the day, like everything that comes out and gets to customers as a result of a finite set of steps. And every day we just make sure we're fine-tuning how we execute on those steps. We are fortunate to also be a technology company, and with tech, we're able to build systems around these different processes that let us monitor what is happening at each step of the way. So that lets us catch errors before they occur. So we are more proactive than reactive in some cases. But really, it's just that like every problem can be broken down into a finite set of steps, and that's just the way we approach our work.
Okay, thank you. The next one is from Ogunsaya Opeyemi. He's the head of growth at Querix. Querix. I hope I pronounced that right. He's asking, or she is asking, sorry, the person is asking, do you depend on referral for landing new sales? Actually, the person was correct the first time. Did you depend on referral for landing new sales, or were you directly selling to your preferred customers?
Both. Both. So about half of our new customer inflow today is organic. The rest come from promotions, and also sales. Like we go out there, we talk to people in the random market space, both online and offline as well. But there's also a significant amount of people, a little over half, that come through a friend just telling a friend, or a colleague telling another colleague or something.
Okay, thank you. That's interesting. So this next person has 6 questions. Just one person. So I'm just going to be taking it one after the other, but it's from one person. His name is Ikenwa Chukunon. So he's the product manager at Monk. So his first question is, how is your current business model driving in the line of sustainability?
It's a great question. So we have to ask what makes a business sustainable. At the end of the day, sustainable businesses are businesses that are able to fund themselves. So a business's goal is to eventually find profitability. And there are different layers of profitability. There's profitability from the service level, where it costs less to deliver the service than what people pay for it. And then the next level of profitability is that amount that is made from the difference between the cost of sales and the actual sale. It covers, let's call them operating expenses. So if you had like an office or any sort of administrative thing, the another level of profitability is when that amount is now big enough to also cover your salary. And then the next level of that is that amount is able to now cover all your capital expenses. So that includes, if you wanted to buy a building, the building that you're buying is coming from money that customers paid you. So for us, we think about profitability in those steps. Right now we are profitable on the service level. Barely, because of course, like, inflation has thrown the model apart, so we're barely there right now. And then the next thing that powers our economic engine is the recurring revenue, because even customers pay on a monthly recurring basis. That is actually what allows us to invest so much in delivering an excellent customer experience, because we now have more control, we have more flexibility, we have more upfront cash to make investments in things that would lead to better outcomes for customers. Those are the 2 things I would offer.
Okay, thank you. His second question is, who are your current competitors and how do you fight them off?
Wow, that's very aggressive. We don't think about that. Yeah, we just don't. Okay, maybe the answer is this. We believe that our competition is the status quo. Our competition is any form or medium where people used to get their services done. So whether it's people managing all their artisans, or whether it's people going to the market and then cooking for themselves, or whether it's people washing their clothes, ironing them, anything that is the status quo is our enemy. Like those are the things that we consider to be competition. And how do we fight them off? Well, like we just have to consistently prove that people can achieve more and people can get more done with their lives if they delegated these things. And we believe that by proving that there is a trustworthy partner that can do those things for you, people will start making that switch of behavior.
Okay, thank you so much. The next one from the same person. He's saying, how do you bridge the gap between offline and online mode, tech and human interaction, based on your current business model?
Eventually you realize that both of those things are not different, because like everything a computer can do, a human being can do. It's just that for the computer, you write the instruction and the computer now executes the instruction. And the computer will execute that instruction for as many times as you tell it to execute that instruction. And so we based on that logic, we are a very process-driven organization. All our processes are built with human and tech in mind, and is designed from a human-first perspective. Because once we're able to codify whatever human processes need to occur, then we can build software that will automate the parts that need to be automated. We also build software that allows information to flow from one step to the other, making the next person's job easier. So yeah, we don't think of them as two separate things that much. It's the same kind of things that we apply to both set of problems.
Okay, thanks. His fourth question, he's asking, does your product sell itself, that's grow organically, or is there an extra push from investors based on infusing of extra capital for marketing?
I don't know about the second part of the question. I don't know if it particularly applies. But yes, like I mentioned before, 50% of our competition right now is organic. And by organic, I mean referrals, like someone told someone, and then they came. There is no push from investors. I don't think investors do that kind of thing. It's like
no, like the capital from investors. He means like he said the extra capital. Like, do you put aside like a huge amount or something just for marketing, or you rely on the organic growth?
Well, so we do have a team that is focused on growth, and we do have to pay their salaries. So part of like investment money goes into paying salaries. But as far as things like billboards and stuff like that, we are not at that stage yet. It's still small enough where we can heavily rely on organic. At the same time, we're still doing experiments with different kinds of acquisition channels. So inevitably, you have to spend some money.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so his fifth question is, what is success and growth like for Eden?
Like, what does it look like? Or like, what indicators do we look at that would mean success for us as a business and for growth? Yeah, right now, growth is, success is finding product market for us. So you can measure product market fit in different ways. One of my favorite methods of measuring product market fit is the product market fit score. I think it was pioneered by Larry Ellis, but Superhuman, the email client, they have published like a well-written article about this. I'll find it. I'll send the link on the chat. But the idea of this method is to survey customers and ask them how disappointed they would be if they could no longer use your product. And if over 40% of customers say they'll be very disappointed, then that's an indicator of product market fit, because it's a critical mass of people who are depending on you for their life to be easier and their life to be worse if they couldn't use it. So that's one of the things that we use to measure. And then there's other things that we use to measure, like monthly growth, monthly retention. Um, those things are very important as well.
All right, thank you so much. And then his last question, finally, where do you see Eden in 5 years?
um,
5 years.
I can't say where we'll be in 5 years, but I can say where we'll be in 10 years. Um, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Pardon, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can hear you. Can hear you.
Yes, we can hear.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you. Um, so what was the question again?
He's saying, where do you see Eden in 5 years?
Yeah, and I said I cannot say where we'll be in 5 years, but I can say where we'll be in 10 years. So two main things are going to happen. One of them is people will be able to get any domestic service they want through Eden. Everything is going to happen on time. It's going to be reliable. It's going to be safe. It's going to be of great quality. And with that range of service offerings, Eden is also going to be available in all the major tier 1 cities and in some tier 2 cities in Africa as well. So we believe that people are going to become more mobile. We believe people are going to move more freely around. You should be able to continue to use Eden as you continue to move Pan-African. And then the other idea that we have that is really exciting to us is really scaling the level of quality service providers in our local ecosystems. So whether that be through a central body that provides the essential training, tools, equipment, resources, and of course on the demand side, because of the subscriptions, you're able to offer a constant stream of demand to people, and they're just better incentivized to do great work at scale. So these are the things that we imagine that will be very real 10 years from now. You can get any service you want. You can click of a button and it's just going to happen.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're done with no questions. We had 6. So we're moving to Ogun, product manager. He's a service skills. How do you and transact? Silly call explain question. He's asked, like, when people have an call over, maybe clean or to deliver something, how do you make sure these people collect private and then them up immediately and say clean for this amount and like bypass the product and go straight to the people? They are humans, they have faults, and they come to clean, they come to like drop off for them. How do you guys do all this?
I couldn't quite hear the question because you were breaking. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, I'll just repeat the question real quick. For a tech-enabled service platform like yours, how do you monitor and that's for the how do you customers your gardener? They could be collecting their private phone numbers to call them something separate and not the product. They don't go through you money, probably customer. Once the customer realize that, oh, this and a person claim for me to go on app or anything, this person just keeps coming every time I want him to come and all that. Like, how do you control all that?
I didn't quite catch the question, but what I could make of it was, how do we handle this problem of people going around the platform and transacting directly with, let's say, a cleaner? Is that what the question was around?
Yes, something like that.
So for us, it is very simple. It starts from the design of the way the product works. Eden is not for people who want to manage cleaners by themselves. Period. So this problem usually manifests itself when a customer discovers a cleaner through a platform. The person does a good job, and then the cleaner is like, you know what? If you work with me directly, you can pay me less. And for the cleaner is going to earn more from that relationship, but the customer is going to pay less. So both of them are incentivized to actually leave the platform and transact there. With Eden, is a bit different. First and foremost, the customers are not people who want to be managing these different people that are delivering service for them. That is the whole premise of Eden. It's like you set it and forget, you have to deal with it anymore. So anyone who wants to do that is not even a fit for the product in the first place. Secondly, there are benefits that are offered to customers who are using Eden for these things. For example, liability protection. If today in present day world, if a cleaner comes to your place and they spoil something or they break something or they the worst the customer can do is to get angry and they yell. Nobody's going to pay anybody anything back. Mostly because people cannot afford to even pay that money back or anything. In the case of Eden, customers have the liability protection. So anybody who decides to transact off the platform is forfeiting that benefit as well. And then there's also on the cleaner side, like anybody who engages in that sort of behavior is kicked off the platform. And that is not good for them, because once providers are on the platform and they're performing, they are going to get recurring business. And they're not going to have to be looking for more business. So it doesn't make sense for them to jeopardize that for like an extra 500 naira or 1K. So we try to address these issues in the fundamental design of the product and the kinds of people that it is for, to just disincentivize that behavior naturally. And that is not something that we have experienced till date.
Okay, thank you. Emmanuel Adindu, freelance.
Can you guys hear me? Am I still online?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. It's just a network.
Gotcha.
Princess, can you hear us?
My network is very bad.
Yes, it is.
And Princess, can you try switching off your video? Yeah, let's see what that's.
Yeah, I've turned it off. It's off.
Okay, you
Is
can
it
go
off?
ahead. Yeah, it's off. It's off. You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. So Emmanuel is asking, how do you deal with customer?
How do you do with customer what?
Complaints, issues.
Oh yeah. It varies. It varies. It really depends on the situation. There are issues that occur, or let's call them failures in service delivery. There are failures in service delivery that occur and it's purely our fault, or the failure is purely within our control. For failures like that, we preempt them and address the customers before they happen. For example, one of the problems that we are solving now internally is, if a customer is supposed to get their food at, let's say, noon, we know we know if we're going to be on time from like 10. And so once we've crossed that 10 threshold and we haven't and dispatch guy is not on the road, that's a signal for us to inform the customer and preemptively about a potential. So that's just one example. We try to insert these preemptive measures in different parts of our process. We have found that it works really well because customers are not anxious because they know what to expect. And then there's some unexpected issues that sometimes are not within our control. For example, let's say Gokada goes on strike and we're unable to dispatch anything. Those moments are usually very, very difficult to resolve because we are, while we are addressing customers preemptively too, we cannot give a guarantee of when we are going to be able to complete the service at that point in time, because the thing that is causing this disruption in service is not within our control. So we are currently still trying to find creative ways to solve that problem, but it's currently a big blocker for us. And just for general behavior with customer complaints, we believe that customers come to us to solve a problem. We made a promise to them that will solve their problem. So whether it is within our direct control or not, we take full responsibility for it. And in some cases, we compensate customers even when it is not our fault, because last they came to us, they paid us, they trusted us, we made a promise, and we must meet our promise. And in the event that we did not meet our promise, there has to be something that we do to make it right. So that's our general attitude towards customer complaints and how we handle them.
Okay, thank you so much. Do your customer over your service delivery team?
Pardon?
Can
you hear Princess?
Oh my God. Can you guys hear me, please?
Yeah,
Yes,
I
we
can hear
hear
you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I think I lost her again.
Yes, she will join. I'm trying to get the questions from her, so maybe she can just send them. And Princess, can you hear us now? Because she's almost done with the question. I think that's about the last question.
And can you guys hear me now? Let me just say it first.
Yeah, it's better now.
Off again. Okay. Do you put your customer over your service delivery? Did you hear, Nadayar? Let me type it in the chat. Do you your service delivery team?
Okay. Do we choose our customer over our service delivery team when complaints come in? This is a very, very, it's a powerful question, because at every point in time you're making this kind of trade-offs, right? And it is not about choosing one person over the other. Both relationships are contractual. So a team member must perform their role, and a customer expects that you as a company will perform their role because they paid you for something. And the way that we approach this at Eden, we use this mantra from Ben Horowitz, Hard Thing About Hard Things, where he says, take care of the people, the product, and the profit in that order. So you you have to take care of your people, because at the end of the day, those are people who are solving the problem. And no solution is ever perfect. Every solution is in the constant state of evolution. So inevitably, by design, there are customers that are going to be so some customers are not going to have a good experience. So in those times when the customer does not have a good experience, it's very important to treat the customer well. It's very important to deliver on the promise, but not at the expense of the person who has to now deal with 100 more customers tomorrow, because we're in a constant state of learning. So just to answer the question in a very simple way, we prioritize people first, then the product, which is the contract with the customer, and then money comes last.
Okay. What is your customer's insurance over basic damages?
Pardon? Could you type the question?
Yep. Sent already.
So right now we've just been doing it it's like ad hoc. We do not have a formal insurance policy. So whenever those incidents have happened, the company has just paid for it and addressed it. The next level for us is to have like a formal insurance policy, similar to what you would have with like an Airbnb. If you were going to use one, there's an insurance that comes directly. So it's one of the things that is on our roadmap to do.
For the very last question, thank God we were able to answer everything. And vet their staff to ensure customer security.
Well,
And
the different. Sorry, I missed some part of the question.
Okay, I said, how does Eden vet their staff to ensure their are not criminals and the likes? Do you do background checks?
Yeah, so it's all of those obvious things. It's background checks, BVM verification. For us, we do not, as a matter of principle, based on the stage that we're in, we do not work directly with individuals. We work with businesses. So every business that we work with as a service partner is already registered, and there's just more accountability and traceability there. There's also more skin in the game as opposed to an individual that you just find. But still, even beyond the corporate level, on the individual level, there are background checks and verification that we do. In some cases, in some cases of services like cleaning specifically, we have guarantors for every person that we work with. The company has to provide a guarantor statement for each cleaner as well, just so that in the case of anything, if there's someone that needs to be held accountable, we're able to trigger that.
Okay, thank you very much. That was the last question. Confetti. Thank you so much. So we have like, let's say 10 minutes more, and I don't know if anyone in the audience has a question to ask, so we can use just this few minutes we have. You can just raise your hand, and then I'll ask you. Emmanuel, is your hand raised? I didn't do.
Yes, it is. Good evening.
Yeah.
Hi, Manuel.
Hi, Nadayar. So, randomly, I was just thinking, if I like a particular person, probably let's say for cleaning, probably I feel the person does my cleaning better, and I want that particular person to come offered. Is there like an option for that, or Does it just keep going round and round?
Let me try to repeat back what I heard to make sure I understand. Were you asking if there was a particular cleaner that you like, would you continue to request for that person? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Well, it's an interesting problem because repeat behavior and repeat engagement actually drives better outcomes, because in the case of a cleaner, they better learn your space, they better learn your preferences, they better learn the access control. Over time in the course of the relationship, there's less friction, and less friction is what we want as a business. So we do enable that, and in the cases where a customer gives positive feedback for the first time, we try to not change much, so that the behavior and the outcome keeps repeating itself. So that is what you would experience when using Eden. The thing I would just like to call out is there is no like request to this particular person. You will not have to do that. The moment you have once you have a good experience, it's our job to make it repeat. And so we take away that thinking from you, so you don't have to do it. And in the cases where you do want to change and try someone else, you can make that request. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Just something to follow up. You said you work with companies, so I'm just wondering how do you do that? Keep that particular person on to the other person, knowing that it's like a company situation, not like a direct service.
Are you asking how do we assign people to jobs?
Yeah.
There are different factors. Proximity is one factor. Another factor is existing reputation as well. Another factor is completion of our training program. Every cleaner that has completed our training program has gone through the process. We can actually send them anywhere. And then the factor that takes the highest probability once all of those other things have been fulfilled is availability. Because we're always, as new customers join in, we need to fulfill that demand. And so availability is one of the most important variables in deciding how you assign. But we have to make sure that everybody has the same standard of output, which is why we have the training program that we do.
Okay, thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Nadayar. Umar Farouk, you raised your hand earlier. Did you want to ask a question, or I should move on to the next person?
Hey, please, sorry, that was a mistake. You can move on.
Oh, okay, no problem. Samuel Ogunkoya, you're next. We have to be very snappy because of time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Nada. Just two questions. For a business like yours that you are looking to enable, like tech-enabled services, as the case may be, I read somewhere about your first 6 months, and then there was this statistics of you having 60 paying customers and all that, like in the first 6 months. So I wanted to be sure, is this a problem that tech-enabled services should be looking at in customer development, or was there a design flaw in your product? So, and then the second question is, I'm looking at your service market fit, or maybe pro market fit. Should companies be considering LTV/CAC ratio before getting that, or when should, better put, when should a tech-enabled service be considering LTV/CAC ratio? When should they start looking, or when should they start considering it, especially for a country like ours, where traditional models can actually just suffice? Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Samuel. So I didn't understand the first question, so I'm going to address the second one, and then perhaps you can repeat or rephrase the first one. So The second question was when should a company start thinking about LTV to CAC? Do you do it before or after you find product market fit? Right? That's the question.
Yes, please.
Um, these kinds of questions don't really have answers. You do whatever you want. I'll tell you what we do. We look at everything all the time. There is no one before the other. They're all important. And it is important for companies to have some definition of what product market fit means to them. For us, product market fit means that we meet that score, that 40% score from the test that I posted on the chat. And it also means that we are retaining customers at a high rate and we have repeatable growth channels. And that is what product market fit means to us. Now, in our context, because we know that retaining customers and having repeatable growth channels is part of our definition for product market fit, we absolutely have to look at LTV and CAC, because LTV is based on your retention and the CAC is what determines how many customers you can get in a sustainable way. So for us, everything is together. For some other companies, it might not be as relevant. So it really depends. To answer your question, could you repeat the first question that you asked?
All right, thank you. For the second one, I was actually looking at it in context of, does it influence your decision exactly? Okay, for example, before getting pro market fit, does it influence your decision, the LTV/CAC ratio? One, for the first question, what I was asking was, is it very related to it? For your first 6 months, I read you are just 60 paying customers. So I was looking at, is this a general problem in customer development or market development for tech-enabled services, or was there a design flaw in your product that, because 60 in 6 months might not be an impressive number for the public, as the case will be. So that is, I don't know if you get the question now.
Well, so the answer is it depends on what you're building. For us, we are building a lot of moving parts. So our default approach is to build slowly. And every single day, every single week, every single month, we are building another piece of critical infrastructure that will let us do more things in the future. So for our first year and a half, we did not do any marketing. We just focused on building and talking to customers and getting customers to bring other customers. And then this year, we put together a marketing team and we have started testing and running experiments there. So I do not know what the benchmarks are for different kinds of businesses, but when it comes to business scores, I think companies should set their own scores, because every business is different. Every business is trying to achieve something different, and every business is going to take a different approach in how they want to build. For some companies, they build in stealth for 2 years, and then they launch. And when they launch with a big bang launch, and they launch with a very aggressive market to start growing users. For those companies, in 6 months, they have to show a lot of traction. Some other companies, they start the opposite way. They start with customer development and building in parallel. For those companies, it will take longer to prove different things. So it's really up to you how you want to approach your own.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, we're pressed for time because it's like 8 o'clock already. Nadayar, do you have extra 10 minutes? We have 3 more people that raised their hands, or would have to end here.
Yeah, sure. We can do 3 more.
Okay, thank you so much. Similolua.
Hi, Nadayar. Good evening, everyone. So very straight to the point. I'm curious to know what is like your so do you have like a set process as onboarding new hires? Or is it a situation where I'm looking for a backend looking for a backend engineer for one particular problem, and the onboarding process is going to be about
Simi, sorry, am I the only one? Simi, please, can you speak louder?
I hear what Simi is asking. So I'll just ask for
Okay,
confirmation.
okay.
And Simi, Simi, you just let me know if I can hear what you're asking. You're asking whether we have standard onboarding for new employees. Is that what you're asking?
yeah, yeah, pretty
Okay.
much.
So
Is it strictly to their
um,
roles or to understand the Indian product itself? That's what I'm trying.
yeah, so we are now building that actually. For the longest time we didn't. We had different bits and pieces here. Different teams had their own way of onboarding new team members. We're now starting to standardize across the board. Our goal in onboarding is for people to be able to hit the ground running after a month. So usually on the very first day, in fact, before people join the company, they get an onboarding packet that has information about the company, what we do, the product, the team members, the bios of all the team members, how the teams are structured, what the general company goals are, what each team's goals are, who the go-to people are for each team. People get that information before day one. On day one, they're going to have we welcome them. They're going to be a series of conversations with different members of those teams just to solidify what they might have read in the onboarding packet. And then they do all of the other admin and compliance stuff like filling out bank information, getting their health insurance, all of that stuff. And then from day two till the rest of the end of the first week, they go on a customer success shadowing program. So they're going to be paired with a customer success person, and they're going to be working directly with customers. That allows them to get a 360 view of how the product works and how the services are delivered across board. It also gives them the opportunity to get to know some customers at a more intimate level. So everybody knows that the work that we are doing, regardless of where it is, we're doing it for the sake of a customer. And we found that experience tends to humanize or enable people to be more empathetic with customers as we build. So that's for the first week, and then the next couple of weeks are just spent. It's now more targeted at the actual team that the person is going to be on. You'll be spending a lot of time with your team lead and other team members. In some teams, from the second week, they start actively contributing. So on the engineering team, they'll have to fix bugs, or they might have to write tests, because those are things that exposes them to more and more of what you'll be doing. But the general idea is that by the end of the first month, there's a review that's done with their manager about how their first month went and whether they have clarity on what they're going to spend their next 2 months doing. And it is at that point we're able to be like, yeah, this person is ready to hit the ground running. So hopefully that answers your question and gives you an idea of how we do onboarding.
Very sweet. And I guess it's still the same process for check-in every month on month or few quarterly basis. That's between the line manager and the hired talent, right?
So every manager has to do one-on-ones with their team members. You have to do it. Some managers do it weekly. Some managers do it every 2 weeks. And then we run performance reviews on a quarterly basis. So no one should ever get to a performance review and be surprised. That's what they get.
Very sweet. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Orumen OJ.
Thank you. Greetings, everybody. So I have a question on the side of growth and expansion. I understand that while a lot of tech is involved in what you do at Eden, there is also the side of physical persons. So are you looking at venturing into tier 1 cities anytime soon? Or do you have like a sort of year target for that? Probably if you able to successfully handle the whole of Lagos for like maybe a year or two before you begin to venture out into other cities like Abuja, because right now your product service is basically centered in Lagos.
Can I ask you back some questions?
Okay.
So you started off with saying um, when it comes to growth, where we have a physical side and we have a tech side, and then how does that influence how we think about expansion? Is that what you're asking? I'm not sure how those two things are related.
Okay, like as part of your product services, like when it comes
Mhm.
to the food aspects now, and even the cleaning and all, um, it has to do with cleaners, it has to do with catering services. I mean, there are persons, because I think I once saw Prosper's tweets where he said there are actually persons who do the cooking of the food. Like Eden is directly responsible for the cooking of the food. So, if does that in a way affect your expansion into other cities?
Absolutely, yes, it does. And the way it affects expansion is we have to get to a point where we have a replicable model. So whenever we're expanding to somewhere new, it's just copy paste launch. We're not having to do a lot of innovation.
Okay, so on that regards now, do you like have a timed fixed mode, a timed fixed period where you say, in a year or in a year or two
No,
you should have?
no, we don't have that. We don't think about we don't set deadlines like that for ours. We think about it more in what have we been able to prove in terms of our thesis as a business, um, and based on what we have proven, what can we continue to replicate?
Okay, so my final question on in that same line is, when do you intend on, or do you have any plans on switching to other cities anytime soon, like Abuja? Because I think we need the service here too.
Well, thank you for that. It always feels nice to hear that. Um, the short answer is we don't know. We have started collecting a wait list for for people who stay outside of Lagos. Um, so if you go to our website, you'll be able to fill out a form. I'm gonna send it to you. I'm just gonna put the link to the website in there. If you scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll be able to select your CV, put your email address. Uh, but like if 5,000 people came from Abuja today and said, "Yo, let's come there," I, we're gonna take it very seriously.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, now so we have just 2 minutes more, so you have to wrap up your question like pretty quick. And it has to be very short, please.
Yes, yes, I get. Hi. So I was the guy that asked the bunch of questions, 6 questions and everything. I'm a huge fan of Eden's gradual growth. You understand? Like I feel that you guys not rush it. It was you guys did a lot of
No,
experimentation.
so we have 1 minute.
Wait now, it's just 1 minute. So I want to like my question is that like your transition from like core tech to this to kind of service tech kind of thing. Like how was it for you personally? Like your transition. And secondly, my second question is when you started out and you are looking at the retention rates, like how did you grow your retention rates? Like basically users coming to the platform, using the platform and staying, you understand, and retaining those users. So how did you grow that your retention rates? So those are not my two questions. Like your transition from core tech to service tech, tech kind of thing. Then your retention rate, how do you grow it?
Okay. Thanks, Nonso. The For the first one, I didn't really think about that. It's it hasn't felt much different because we're still solving problems, and it's still the same mode of problem solving. There's a big problem, break it down into smaller components, create processes, and write code for those things. compose them together, make them together and then like launch it and deploy it, and then iterate from there. So didn't really feel much different. The one thing I would say though is that I am definitely learning a lot about the country. I'm learning a lot about service delivery. I am seeing many more opportunities that we didn't see even before we started, just by getting, because we're not having to get more involved into how the services are going to be delivered. And it is very exciting that tech exists to make every facet of life better. However, for some reason, in our world, tech has only lent itself. And one of the places that we feel safest, one of the places that we feel most ourselves is our home. And you don't see a lot of innovation. You don't see a lot of technical brain power. You don't see a lot of creativity that's going into how do we make how we live 10 times better. And it's a big privilege that we have to be able to answer that question. And so it's been very exciting. I'm learning a lot. And then on the other question that you asked, what was it again?
Yeah, the retention rate. How did you grow your retention rate?
Oh, how do we grow retention? Yeah, it's very it's actually pretty simple. People churn for different reasons. One of the main reasons why people churn is dissatisfaction. So a customer would churn if they're dissatisfied, or they would churn if they were not the right customer for the product in the very first place, or they would churn if some life event outside of their control happens. Maybe they move, or they relocate, or they lose their job and they can't pay for your service anymore. It could be any of those things, right? So if a customer leaves for a reason that is an uncontrollable life event, that's fine. There's really nothing you can do about that. But when a customer leaves because they're the wrong customer, or they leave because they were dissatisfied, that is an opportunity to make an improvement to the product that will increase retention in the future. I'll give you a very good example. As at October last year, our monthly retention rate was around 70%. We're retaining about 70% of our customers month on month. And when we look at the customer feedback, one of the main reasons why customers were churning was variety. Like, yeah, we can't eat jollof rice every day, fam. Like, we need to give us other things. So depending on you for that. Since we did our relaunch in February with a wider menu offering, our retention rate is now 96% month on month. Like that one thing was responsible for that big jump. So another example is right now, when we look at our customer complaints, the biggest thing customers complain about is delivery times. And our number one company objective is solving delivery times. Everybody's working on that problem today. So as long as customers are not getting their services delivered at the time that we say is going to be delivered, we are not at peace. And we believe that when we solve that problem, we're going to see the numbers go up as well, because customers are going to be happier. And then the other part of it is just knowing the customers better, because if you sell a product to somebody who is not meant to use it, and of course they're going to churn. They're not going to find value. And for us, we're constantly gathering information to nail the ideal customer profile. And over time, we're going to keep tweaking that. So when the right person meets the right product, then there's a higher chance of a longer term relationship. That's what we strive for.
No, so I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, clear, very, very clear. Maybe, yeah, clear my own thoughts.
Okay, no problem. Thank you guys again for joining. Thank you, Nadayar, for giving us extra 14 minutes. We really appreciate the time here. I've learned a lot. Like, as much as we're talking about Eden Life, there's some of the things you've mentioned that I'm going to take back into my own product. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Nadaya. Thank you everyone for your time and your day. Anyways, thank you so much. This is the end. Take care. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
No, so.
Bye,
Thank you
people
so
of
much.
God.
Hi, Esther.
Free James, how for now?
That's what's the problem. That's what's the problem.
Hi,
No, serious big question, which like 8 questions.
Hi,
Eh?
who's
No,
calling
so
me?
Jam.
Hi.
Finish